Hey guys, Charles Floate here and welcome to my SEO 2021 presentation. In this video, I'm going to be taking you through all the things that happened last year, my predictions for this year, as well as all the things that you need to be focusing on to succeed as an SEO in the year to come. As well as a load of bonuses, tips, advice, tricks, and maybe even some news that you haven't heard about throughout the video. Stick with me on this one. It's a fairly long video and there's a lot to come. But before we get into the video itself, I just want to give a quick shout out to my freemium Discord SEO community at SEO.exchange. It's a daily active community with an admin and SEO admin and moderator roster of over 100 years combined experience in this industry. So you cannot go wrong sticking with us. Go and sign up at SEO.exchange. It's totally free. You can also get a subscription to access a load more channels and get access to a load more perks as well. So I know that I said that this is an annual video, and yes, I did make one video like this 3 years in a row, but I did in fact miss last year. That was purely because last year was a bit of a financially and mentally difficult year for myself, along with a lot of other people. I didn't really feel the energy or the inspiration or the willingness or participation to want to create a video of this depth that I had in the years prior, and especially considering the 2019 video is so good and it had so much information and it went down so well. I wanted to make sure that any future videos that I was making were going to be up to scratch, and at the start of last year I just was not up to scratch to making this kind of video. So hopefully this video this year makes up for it and you can get a ton of success out of what's to come. So first, let's take a look at 2020, and I know a lot of you are going to be asking, Charles, why? Please don't take me back to that year. But we've got to look at it. We've got to take a dive back into exactly what happened as an SEO industry last year. Okay, so we cannot start off a video without talking about the most influential part of 2020 and possibly the most influential algorithm update of the last few years, if not since the Medic update. Kind of even before that, because it was potentially even more serious than the Medic update was, though obviously for some niches the Medic update hit significantly. So to start things off, it started on December the 3rd and it finished around December 23rd, so it took a full 20 days to roll everything out. Obviously it wasn't rolling out every single day. There was some specific dates such as the 3rd and 4th itself, the 9th and 10th, etc., where things were significantly more volatile than other days. It was link building focused. This is now confirmed by myself, Eric Lancheris, who did a load of data science analysis where he saw a less than 1% change in meta titles, in H2s, and the content itself. As well as confirmed by people like Matt Diggity, who I had dinner with over the New Year's Eve holidays. And then there's been small changes on January 5th to 8th and then January 16th to 17th. Some are saying that it's a reversal. It's not a 100% reversal. From my own findings, it's more of a 25% reversal, so it's maybe a significant portion of the core update was changed or reversed. It's looking like more of a reversal than it is a change, just because of all the sites that got hit seem to have jumped back about 25% or so of their traffic numbers. But 2020, the whole year as an SEO in review. Of course, we had the May and December updates, which were hugely influential. They were significant updates enough to shock the SEO industry to its core, if we may say, and they were very significant updates. It's unusual to have two so prominent updates, and two updates that were heavily link focused happen in the space of 1 year. There were the obvious effects of COVID and lockdowns happened across the world. I know a lot of local SEOs who just lost clients, lost leads, lost businesses quite heavily because they were in niches that were so hard affected by lockdowns and so hard affected by COVID. I know SEOs in Australia specifically have been struggling because of how intense their lockdowns have been. And something throughout the year, again, no-follow links prioritization. This is maybe something from 2019 where Google announced that no-follow is becoming a hint directive. No-follow links have become significantly more important than the years previous to 2020. In fact, no-follow links were so important that on the sites that I didn't actively build them on, I lost in the updates. That was one of the core themes that I found in sites of my own that I lost in the updates, were that I hadn't been doing the no-follow links, hadn't been doing the link building. Parasite SEO resurgence, massive considering how heavily it fell off over the last couple of years. I'm not saying that you can go and GSA spam some sites out there, though I do know some SEOs since the December update that have literally gone and got their GSA servers back up and running. But you can build, especially on Google's own properties, things like YouTube, things like business.site, things like Google's own docs and sites and everything. They just seem to be ranking phenomenally well, and you can get away with a lot of things that you can't on other properties that you can on Google's own properties, just because of how heavily Google do in fact favor them. And then related questions uptick. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this in the SERPs. A lot more related questions where you have that drop down of 4 or 5 questions that, especially on mobile, will continually drop down if you open them. That's seen a massive uptick this year. That's probably more to do with the intent and natural language processing algorithms more than anything. Though again, those related questions uptick has not been seen in the foreign SERPs, which is even more evidence of it being an NLP-based feature. And then popular products have been dominating mobile e-commerce. This is basically straight from the Google merchant feed, but it's mixed in with AdWords and all the sponsored kind of ad stuff. It basically pulls in popular products that are relevant to your search query in a quite large knowledge graph on your mobile that almost takes over the entire screen of your search. And these are all fed into it via Google's merchant feed, as well as people actually bidding on trying to be the number one in those sponsored positions. They have been absolutely taking over for mobile e-commerce in the last year. So I know I've been getting a lot of these questions last year, so I thought I'd try and explain it for everybody going into 2021. But what are core updates? What are their effects? What can I expect after the December update, considering it affected so many people? It affected about 60% of my audience either going up or going down from my own vote-based polls on Twitter, etc. So it affected a large majority of you guys that are going to be watching this video now. So first of all, when Google actually say there is a core update and they claim that it affects everything, it's probably going to be trending towards either being a content algorithm or a backlink/link focused algorithm. This is probably baked into their philosophy from the Panda and Penguin days, when essentially it was you either focus heavily on content with Panda or you heavily focus on links with Penguin. And this is essentially because if you're trying to optimize both of them at the exact same time, then it's very likely that you're going to have conflicting signals. So essentially when you change a content signal, it can have a big effect on link signals, because links, of course, are normally within the content. So changing both of them at the same time normally kind of has these unexpected consequences that Google didn't really look out for. And it's kind of very difficult to look out for unless they deploy it onto a big enough datascape that they can actually get to those results. So they only really do that when they actually deploy the latest algorithm updates. And unfortunately, if you've been hit significantly by a core update, and by the December core update specifically, you may not be able to recover 100% of your traffic until the next core update rolls around. And when is the next core update going to roll around? It's probably, from my own analysis and things, going to happen within the first 2 quarters of 2021. So we've got the next kind of 5.5 months where we're going to very likely see another update, and specifically another core update dropping on us very soon, just because of the amount of activity I'm seeing from Google, their employees on Twitter, and the amount of responses I'm seeing about the state of the current SERPs. I do not think we're going to be sticking with this algorithm set for an extremely long time. So now on to the juicy parts. Where exactly is SEO headed into 2021? What can you expect to see going forward? What are my predictions? And what can we look out for? So the first thing that I'm going to say is Google Discover. This thing, and considering the amount of devices that Android is taking over and their share of the market going up every single year, Google Discover is just becoming a massive traffic source, and it's becoming one of the biggest traffic sources for sites that I knew wouldn't even expect to get that amount of traffic from Google Discover. Sites that are several years old that have got this really hyper-focused niche content are absolutely smashing it from Google Discover, recommending their content to relevant users now that probably haven't seen it. But what can you actually expect to look out for when you're trying to optimize for Google Discover? Because the algorithm isn't advanced as people make it out to be. It's not any super advanced machine learning based stuff where it's going to recommend you stuff completely based on your exact interaction with words and all these kind of things. It's just a matchmaking algorithm that essentially looks at all the content that you deem to be relevant, and then sees what other people that within those relevant topical bubbles have seen, and tries to force content into your discovery feed. And it will just do a basically yes or no feature of if you engage with content or not to see where you like, and it takes that as votes. There's still, after all, a filter that you need to bypass to get into it, and no one knows exactly what kind of filter that is. Maybe it's a topical authority filter, maybe it's a link filter, etc., etc. We don't really know, but you need to have some kind of filter to be able to bypass, to be able to even get into the Google Discovery feed. A brand new domain that was just registered yesterday will not be able to get into the Google Discover feed. And the Google device traffic with engagement seems to be your best bet of being able to get more viewers from the Discovery feed. Basically, Google device traffic, where Google can track it through Chrome and through Android and through these bajillion other ways that they track you, is significantly the only basically confirmed metric that we can have a look at to be able to see how we get higher listings within Google Discover and how we get more pages and posts recommended. Okay, so the next big thing that will be headed into 2021 is, of course, NLP, aka Natural Language Processing. This is baked into algorithms to hyper-focus them, to be able to understand the linking of words, to be able to understand the linking of documents, etc., as if it was a human rather than an algorithm reading content, so it can give you a yes or a no if a piece of content is good, essentially. NLP itself is more focused on intent than it is on anything else, essentially trying to understand the intent of every single word and every single page that is within its index, rather than being able to understand and process the actual language like a human would, which would probably be converting it into some kind of emotion. Algorithms haven't or won't roll out internationally this year. From what I have seen in testing, the only two language-based algorithms aside from English that have any sort of NLP or machine learning going on is Spanish and German. Even French has not been touched by Google yet. It seems to be only Germany and the Spanish-speaking countries that seem to be very much so different to any of the other algorithms. Every other country doesn't seem to have any sort of NLP rollout going on, though the algorithm updates themselves do seem to be rolling out at the same time across the board. Though, as we saw with the December update, yes, the December update rolled out across every single country on December the 3rd and the 4th, but the English language changes that rolled out on the December 9th to the 11th weren't picked up in the other languages until significantly later on in the week or even weeks afterwards. So it's very likely that they had an algorithm ready to deploy that was a link-based algorithm across all of the countries, but they didn't have any of the NLP or content side ready to deploy until significantly after they'd done the English ones, because they have to retune, refine, and retweak them to be able to deploy to those other languages specifically. Google is getting better at understanding topical authority, though. They've essentially been able to link documents on your site and documents on other sites to be able to bolster up your topical authority without there ever being any links. That is something that is scarily powerful and scarily cool, but it makes it even more so focused in the future that we don't necessarily 100% need links, not read them, to be able to rank websites. Though if you go and read Rand's latest blog post on SparkToro about how the future of link building and about how everything will be happening, I think you'll be slightly surprised on how link builders can slightly change their game in the coming years when these algorithms do really roll out and hit us pretty hard. So voice assistant is another thing that has been growing massively in the West. Think of things like the Amazon Echo, the Google Home products. All of these things have been baking into the fact that now 1 in 3 US consumers will do a voice-based purchase in 2021. Now that in of itself does not necessarily mean that you can go ahead and start optimizing your products and things for Google and they'll start selling well. But what you can do and bear in mind is that SEO does not explicitly just mean Google, it is search engine optimization. So you can go and optimize products for Amazon, you can go ahead and optimize products for eBay or any app that is used to purchase things through these voice searches. Essentially what you want to go ahead and do is reverse engineer them. So go and get your Amazon Echo, go and get a Google Home, start plugging in every voice search and voice command you can think of without it having a credit card linked or without having anything to be able to actually explicitly go and buy things linked into it. And then look at what is being the number one returning answer every single time and try and see how that product has optimized for it to be the number one returning product. And then just simply reverse engineer it and try and do it for yourself. That's the most simple way to go ahead and try and get in on this huge trend that is the voice assistant e-commerce that is going to be taking over 2021 even more so than it did last year. With 1 in 5 consumers last year, it's now going into 1 in 3 this year. Now, something that we know is going to be happening is that there's going to be more and more SERP features added to the SERPs. It's just a trend that Google has been doing every single year, and something that I mentioned earlier when you saw all of those additional related questions in the SERPs. You're going to have additional related questions. FAQs are going to be added more and more, considering Google are loving the FAQ schema right now, and that's something that you need to be adopting as an SEO yourself. The shopping results, especially the popular products on mobile, that's been going down an absolute storm. Tweets, Google has been loving Twitter. They're one of the biggest winners in the December update, going up by about 60% in traffic, or about 200 million clicks a month. Knowledge graphs and knowledge panels, again, adding for more and more things, more and more people. And Google Screen. So if you don't know about Google Screen, it's the new local feature where basically sponsored verified listings are going to be on the top of your Google search results for local businesses. So let's say you put in lawyer near me, it's going to have quote unquote verified people that Google have verified. I don't know exactly how their system works to go ahead and verify them, but they've been testing it in more and more cities. Obviously, this does open them to potential lawsuits and things if this goes wrong, but if it goes right, I guarantee this will be one of the best and most powerful things Google has ever implemented. Though again, it could be a problem due to its search monopoly and the antitrust lawsuits that are also going on with all of this stuff. So again, more and more search features have been added, and specifically the ads and the sponsored ones have been smashing it recently. And finally, for my trends going into 2021, there's just more and more users each year. Unlike social media, there is more people, more countries, more exposure to Google every single year. People are not coming off of it, which is unlike Facebook, unlike the other social networks. I think Twitter is one of the only ones that is still growing. Users know how to search for things better. It basically just means that users are completely tech obsessed, and they've been at this point doing thousands, if not tens of thousands of searches throughout their lifetime. And that essentially allows them to be able to use Google and to be able to use how to find information, how to find products, how to find the best deals, etc. much better than they were several years ago. So you just need to take those things into consideration, as well as the fact that auto suggestions are becoming more used. It's something that I'm seeing more and more frequently, and it's something that should probably be your main keyword source right now, is the Google auto suggested feature, because that is something that every single person is clicking on, and almost every other search is now an auto suggested search. It's crazy. So, as an SEO that is majority focused on working with Google to generate traffic, what do you need to be working on? What do you need to be focusing on to have the most successful campaigns and have the most success in general into 2021? Well, let's just jump into it. The first thing I'm going to say is Schema and Microdata, and this should be probably the most obvious one. If you haven't been seeing all the powerful SERP features that have been added, if I haven't been talking about all the NLP, etc., Schema is the only way 100% to tell the algorithm specific things about your page or website. Everything else is inferred from the algorithm taking away pieces of information from your website and trying to build an overall portfolio of what your website's about. Schema is the only way you tell people, okay, this is my address, this is my phone number, this is specifically the name of my company. The only way that you do that is by Schema, by Microdata, by these things that the algorithm can specifically read as code and understand as specific information. So your link building game, this is the next thing you need to be working on in 2021, because a lot of people's link building games is atrocious right now, as well as the fact that they can't analyze things properly at all. They don't understand stuff, they don't understand what a link is, how someone got there, etc., etc. So authority obviously is just winning out. The higher authority links you get on average, the better you're probably going to do. It's just the case with every single algorithm update that's happened in basically the last 5 years that Google has been favoring authority. Simply having a DR70 link obviously won't do it. It needs to be niche relevant, it needs to be on point, though the higher authority you have, the less those other things matter when it comes to link building. Your links need links, and they need other signals. Unfortunately, gone are the days of building guest posts that have no internal links, no social signals, no comments, no other backlinks at all, nothing going for them aside from that link. Your links need to have other signals going to them, otherwise they will not be a powerful link. Even if it's on a DR80, DR90 crazy high level site, if it has no other signals going to it whatsoever, it still won't move the needle. They are not that great links without having other signals. You need some other way to empower and embolden those links to actually pass juice. No follow link building is a must, aka pillar link building. This is something even I kind of didn't properly implement last year, and it hurt me pretty badly because I didn't implement it properly. Making sure that you have your pillar link building on point, and if anyone has a pillar link building service out there that is really doing well, you guys are going to kill it this year because of the amount of people that really need to invest in their nofollow and pillar based link building. Most people are just going out there and buying the links of the niche edits, guest posts, etc., and they don't even think about the trust signals, about the nofollow links that you need to implement on top. Rel UGC and sponsored still doesn't mean much. We've done a load of testing, and adding those links doesn't really swing it either way. It doesn't seem to have a negative or positive effect. It just seems to be the exact same as a normal link. That possibly could be because Google is actually trying to train the machine learning algorithms into being able to see where links are positioned. That's a very interesting way of looking at it, but it also might just be because Google tends to announce things and then doesn't actually implement them until several months or even years down the line. And a lot of the times they say they've done something or they've removed something and they don't even tell us, so we have to find it out for ourselves. And then anchor texts are actually trending towards higher levels of exact and partial match anchor texts, which is kind of going away since the end of the rolling Penguin update. It seems to have been in that upwards trend towards more higher levels of anchor texts and partials. If you go to any affiliate SERPs now, most of the sites have a percentage of exact or partial anchor text. It's crazy. That wasn't actually the case when rolling Penguin was coming out. It was kind of the opposite trajectory. So it's quite interesting that you can get away with high levels of exact and partial match anchor text nowadays. And e-commerce is by far the biggest earner for any SEO in the market. If you are not focusing at least some of your business towards e-commerce, you are going to be missing out this year. With lockdowns not ending, with COVID restrictions probably not ending until the middle of this year, it's almost certain that e-commerce is going to continue to grow throughout the first 6 months of 2021. Physical retailers simply cannot survive these 18 months of continual negative sales, negative revenues, etc. A lot of them are moving online, a lot are just going bankrupt, as well as the fact that if you're an affiliate and you're earning good money from affiliate, if you have an e-commerce business earning money, it is making that affiliate earnings look like absolute chump change. I know people that are earning 100k, 150k off affiliate, but I know people are earning several million per month off of e-com. Then they make the affiliate guys look tiny. So making sure that you can at least have some footholding within the e-commerce space is probably your best bet going into 2021. And the last thing I think you should focus on is your users' lifetime value. That essentially means that SEO Google traffic is not forever, and it's somewhat unpredictable, especially with the amount of updates that are coming out. It's kind of hard to continually guess and continually guarantee what Google will next be focusing on. So making sure that your users are coming back from their own volition, making sure that you're collecting their data, you have pixels, you have emails, you have accounts on your website, you have every single possible way to making sure that your user is not just going through a singular one-time purchase with your company, to make sure that they are putting as much value over their lifespan as possible with you. It's going to be something that is outside of the SEO realm, but something that any SEO should be making sure they are playing into, to make sure that they have a business if one day Google just decides to nuke everybody's website and destroy the entire SEO industry. And as a bonus tip, I just want to say that optimizing for Wikidata is by far probably the best thing you can be doing in 2021 as a business. As we've been seeing with all the SERP features, all the knowledge graphs, etc., the number one way that Google invests into that is by looking at entities, and the number one source of entity data is from Wikidata. And it's still by far the number one source of information for Google. So investing in pages on Wikipedia, investing on links, investing on edits, investing any amount of time that you can and money that you can into making sure that you have links from Wikipedia within the Wikidata back to your website is going to phenomenally help you in the months and years to come. So, I know you've all been waiting for this part. What am I working on going into 2021? Well, the first thing that I'm going to be working on is my SEO automation. Basically making sure and continually trying to improve my systems and my automatic systems and my automation to be able to have faster systems, more efficient systems, higher earning systems throughout this year. It's a massive goal of mine. So I'm going to start off by trying to automate more of my content production. I know that some of you will probably be fairly surprised that I automate any of my content production, but I do. I still do it for some PBN links, some tier link building, all that kind of stuff, but I'm trying to step up the content production of to be a higher level rather than having to spend the thousands of dollars every month that I do with content writers. The only company that I've found so far that can do it to a high enough quality is MarketMuse, but unfortunately for one credit, which is 1,000 words of AI generated content, and it really is AI generated content, it's $100. So obviously $100 per 1,000 words is even more expensive than I'm paying some of these VAs to create me content for. So I'm going to also be trying to automate more of my schema and microdata implementation. This is through my own systems. It's can't really go into much more detail than that, but if you guys can try and figure out some of yourself, it's going to be very worthwhile. And then automating my virtual assistant processes, just so that I have to have less meetings with them, just so that they have training, so that they can onboard themselves. These kind of things throughout the year will make my job a lot easier than having to put in the amount of time that I do currently into my VAs. I'm also going to be working on some specific affiliate SEO plays. Now, anyone who has followed me for a long amount of time will know that my major two niches are finance and travel, and several of the sites that I have within my portfolio of those two major niches were severely hit last year and have still continued to struggle throughout the remainder of last year and this year. So I've been going much more into specific niches that I think will survive post-pandemic and during the pandemic, which have been very successful. I've been doing a heavy amount of analysis for high ROI niches, online gambling, financial services, even solar technology. There's a ton of niches out there, but unfortunately, sorry, I don't show any niches in my public videos. And then the final thing that I'm really focusing on this year is my family e-commerce business. We own a manufacturers in the UK, and we're building new UK e-commerce sites because of the success that we had last year. The UK market, especially the domain market, is so undervalued. It is crazy. You can pick up Exact Match really solid domains for £50. Like, it's crazy how cheap some of them are. I know that I think it's Mark Rofi got christmastrees.co.uk for £50 or £100 something, which is just ridiculous. And then again, investing more into the growth from our Wayfair and our Amazon side, which has been the majority of sales over the last several years. We're actually now one of Wayfair's top 3 sellers for our category. And Wayfair recently also launched a PPC system, as well as like an Amazon style stocking system where you pay to stock your items in their warehouses and all this stuff. The PPC system is really interesting because there's basically no competition right now on the PPC side, especially with ones that have had previous experience within the PPC world. So sticking our PPC guys onto that has been phenomenally successful to us. And anyone else that is on there that is on Wayfair needs to check that out immediately. And that's everything from my SEO 2021 presentation. You can follow me for daily updates on Twitter at Charles_SEO. You can also download all of my free and premium SEO training at gumroad.com/CharlesFloat, as well as join my freemium SEO Discord community at SEO.exchange. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, as well as click that grey notification bell down below to make sure that you get notifications every single time I upload a video. I've been Charles. Peace.